Alisema zika matna savia kitale kuja recorder tuone. Zika matna zika na kitale.
Good morning, class. Before Dr. Irene starts the lesson, I would like just to mention something very important. First of all, I want to appreciate those who have managed to access common course on the e-learning. Common course include KUC 111, that is communication skills. Then we have KUC 112, that is a fundamental of computing. Also on the same side, it is discouraging to find out that some of you have not accessed the e-learning. Or if you have accessed, some of you have not enrolled or accessed these common courses. For your information, the system can record when you logged in, when you access these courses. And the report generated is very important because the system can tell which week, which day, which time you access the course on the e-learning. So if you fail to access the course on the e-learning, the system will mark you as absent. Just as a normal face-to-face class, the system can be able to mark you as either absent or present, depending on how frequent have you accessed the course on the e-learning. So this is maybe important for those who have never accessed the course on the e-learning to do so, because before you do exam, there's a requirement. For you to qualify to do exam, you must attempt at least some percentage of the classes. And remember, for you, for the system to mark you as an active member, you need to be at least access the e-learning at least once or twice per week. But now we are on I think on week 3 or week 4, and most of you, I can say a quarter, you have not accessed the e-learning portal. What you have been doing, you have just been attending these online live lessons, but you have not logged into the e-learning and accessed the courses on the e-learning. That's why the system is marking you as absent. And this means that for you to do exam, you must at least access the e-learning system. And there are some activities that lecturers are going to post. Some lecturers have already posted quizzes, and some lecturers have also uploaded assignments. So it means if you have not accessed the e-learning portal and do those activities, you'll not be able to do the final exams. So this is information for those who have not accessed the e-learning. If you have any challenge, we usually repeatedly say, visit e-learning office at ABB 101 so that you can be shown the way forward. So if you have not accessed the e-learning portal, you have up to today to find out what's the problem. Or if you are not maybe having a smartphone, or if you're having any challenge, kindly let your lecturer know, because it is very important for you to access the e-learning portal. So like from this side, when I filter, I find almost 700 students who are lazy. We can say they are lazy because you don't know what brought you to the university. You are supposed to attend the e-learning portal, access the lecture materials, and participate for you to be an active. Failure to do that, the system will mark you as absent and do not be able to do exams at the end of this semester. So it means that you are going home with a 0 in communication skills. So if you want maybe to go home with a 0 in communication skills, continue being absent, continue being inactive on the e-learning portal, continue not accessing these two common courses, that's KUC 111 and KUC 112. And as he said, if you have any challenge accessing those courses, kindly visit the e-learning office at ABB 101 to be assisted. Because you'll not be allowed to do final exams if on the e-learning portal it indicates that you have never accessed the course. So that's maybe one the information I just wanted to pass you. That's KUC 111 and KUC 112. You need to be active and access the lessons posted on the e-learning portal. So maybe Dr. Irene?
Thank you, MacD. Are you done?
Yes, thank you, I'm done.
Okay, thank you so much, MacD, for that kind of information and also for your analysis of finding out that a good number of my students are not accessing the e-learning platform. I want to emphasize what MacD has said and tell you that the course content for communication skills is actually uploaded on my my course on the e-learning platform. That is KUC 111 September, December 2022. So because all of you are there, you should be able to log in. All of you are, MacD uploaded all of you on, enrolled all of you on this platform. So it is a matter of you visiting. He has done a big task of enrolling you in the course. So what remains is for you to visit. And the beauty about the online course is that you can do this anytime you are free. You can do it in the morning, in the afternoon, in your bedroom, in the university hostels, wherever you can be able to log in and you can be able to see the content and you can be able to interact with it. So again, just like McDonald has said, I encourage you to do that. Failure to do that, you will lose that opportunity to be able to sit for exams at the end of this semester because you will not have fulfilled the 80% of your attendance. We imagine that 10% could be something to do with an issue that has affected you that you may not attend, but we expect that 80% of your time should be spent in contact with your course materials. Now class, welcome to topic 3 in communication skills. And if I can remember what I said at the beginning, I said that this course is intended to assist you to be able to acquire and perfect certain skills that are key for your development as a person, your development as a student, and also for your future career. So one of those is listening, the listening skill. Now the listening skill is an important skill that is useful for your personal, academic, and professional life. However, it is a skill that has been neglected and confused by many people. But there are people who have looked at this skill and they have come up with ideas. For example, the Turkish proverb that you can see there on your wall, it says, listening requires more intelligence than speaking. Listening requires more intelligence than speaking. And my question is, do you agree or disagree with this proverb that listening requires more intelligence than speaking? I want you to write your view in the chat section. We'll look at that before we move on in our discussion today. So we are asking ourselves, listening requires more intelligence than speaking. Do you agree or do you disagree? You can just write agree and then you say why, or disagree and you say why. So get to your chart and let's see what you have there. I can see a lot of you saying agree requires more intelligence and speaking. I do think it requires more. You don't have to put up your hand, you only need to write your answer. I agree and why. Understanding. And see someone saying I agree because it needs understanding. I think most of you are saying it needs internalization. You need a conscious effort. I see a lot of people saying listening requires more conscious effort than speaking. And I want to agree with this group of people because when you listen, you have to be focused. Unlike speaking, which you can just speak off the cuff. The English people say you can speak off the cuff. And I'm sure you have heard the saying that I was misquoted. You have also heard that people have a loose tongue. That means they speak just without thinking. However, listening requires some level of intelligence. And we'll look at that statement later on, that proverb, when we arrive at the end of this lecture. I want to say that listening is one of the skills or one of the things you develop quite early in life. It's one of the first skills that one develops. We are told by scientists that a baby in a mother's womb listens to what is happening outside. Some babies even react by either kicking or hitting the mother's womb because they can sense either that there is some issue or they can just keep quiet and not make any fetal movements. We are even told that when you sing to a child in the womb, they get the music. We're told when you read to them, they are able to listen. So listening is one of the skills we develop quite early. However, it is one of the skills that is quite neglected. People usually confuse hearing to listening. That is one of the things that happens. When you ask someone, are you listening? They say yes. And when you ask them to repeat what you have said, they do not have an idea. It is because they were hearing, but they were not listening. Secondly, some people pretend to listen when actually they are planning to react. So they have, they begin to develop answers for what you're saying even before you finish what you're saying. They're planning on how they'll react. Others think that listening means maintaining silence while rehearsing what to say or do. This is not true about listening. Some other people think that listening is an automatic process. However, listening is different from hearing. Let me give you a few ideas why we say that listening is different from hearing. Number one, hearing is an automatic process. As long as your ears have no problem, they are not sick, you will hear. However, you may not be listening, because listening is a process that involves careful concentration on the sounds that are being made, and therefore picking some information which is taken to the brain. That would be one of the differences, that hearing is an automatic process, but listening is a choice. You choose to listen. Number two, hearing is a passive activity. You don't have to do anything. You simply have to be there in the presence of the person who is speaking, and you will be able to hear. However, listening is a process that is active and purposive. It is a conscious activity. You must select what you want to listen to. You must select how long you want to listen. You must select whom you want to listen to. So you don't just hear everything. You listen for those things that you want to listen to. However, listening emerges from hearing. You must hear some sounds before you are able now to choose, to make the conscious activity of choosing whether you want to listen or you do not want to listen. What this all means is that listening, therefore, is a very conscious activity. It is a decision-making activity. It is an activity that demands attention and proactive interest in what the person is saying. So whenever you are asked whether you are listening or hearing, there is a distinction that the person asking you that question is trying to make. They're trying to find out, did all the sounds just get into your ears and stop at that point? Did the sounds just strike your the eardrums, cause vibrations and stop at that point? Or did you go on to try to make meaning out of the sounds? And I want to say this, wherever you are right now, you could be under a tree or in a corridor somewhere trying to get this lesson. I am sure around you there are sounds that are being made. It could be movement by people. It could be the movement of chairs. It could be conversations that people are making. It could be birds making their sounds in the air. It could be a motorbike passing or a vehicle. But those sounds are not of interest to you. They are coming to your ears, but you are still focusing on this lesson because you are involved in listening. So what you're doing now is listening, but it begins from you hearing some sound. I want us to look at a number of definitions that have been given concerning listening. There are quite many. I've only picked these 4. DeVito, 1987, says that listening is the active process of receiving oral stimuli. That means It is a process. It is something that happens procedurally. There are things that must be in place, and there are things that must happen one after another for you to say you have heard. And what are you hearing? You are hearing words. You are hearing sounds. You are hearing some kind of stimuli that hits your eardrums and causes you to have the message from your brain that you are hearing some sound. The second definition is from a dictionary. It says that listening is the process of giving attention to a sound. Again, I want you to note here, giving attention, meaning that some focus must be made, some conscious decision must be made for you to listen. Otherwise, what will happen is that you will be hearing. So for you to say you are listening, you must give attention to a sound. Number 3, that listening is a voluntary process that involves understanding, analyzing, evaluating, and responding to sound. Now, this third definition helps us to begin to see the process that is called listening, that it begins from the point of understanding, analyzing, evaluating, and responding to sound. When we are listening, we are not responding to written words. We are responding to sound. Then definition number 4 says, listening is an active, deliberate, selective process by which a message is received, critically interpreted, and acted upon by a purposeful listener. Again here, we are given that process. And note that it is an active, deliberate process. What that means is that anytime you are required to be listening, or anytime you decide to listen, you do it deliberately. And then there are certain active things that you must do in the process of listening. It also involves selecting what you want to hear and leaving out what you do not want to hear or what you do not want to focus on. So the message is received, then the brain acts on it to critically interpret, to make meaning out of what you are hearing, and then later on you act because you are a purposeful listener. Now, my student, I want you to note that from these definitions, we are getting to understand that listening is an active process. Yes. Okay. Sasawa. So allow me to see what I can do here. From beginning. Can you see any changes, Makdi?
Yes, we are now on slide 3.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Can you see that?
Yes,
That is slide 4, isn't it?
No, we are still at the slide 3.
Okay. Yes, I want us to still remain at slide. Yeah, I want us to remain at slide 3 for a while, because I want us to see those definitions. I thought they were visible. So students, allow me to just post that slide there so that you can, if you're writing, you can write for a few minutes. So I am sorry that the slides were not moving, but this is what I was talking about. I was saying that listening, we can come to a conclusion that listening is a process. I am sure you can see that all our 4 definitions have the word process in them. And then the second thing I want us to see is the presence of the word sound. Oral stimuli, sound is a word that is repeated to mean that when we are listening, it is about sounds and are not about written symbols. Then the other thing I want us to also get is that it is a deliberate, voluntary process. Voluntary meaning you choose by yourself, you actually, it is deliberate, you plan that I'm going to listen. Then I also want you to note the process. It involves receiving a message, interpreting it, and acting upon it. Now, I want us to look at the stages of listening. Because it is a process, then it means that it has stages. How do we listen? We listen in a very interesting way. First, we receive sounds. These sounds hit our eardrums, and then they are recorded in our mind. So that if you are somewhere, let us say you are under a tree, you are likely to hear sounds of birds. You're likely to hear sounds of vehicles moving or motorbikes or even people. So the sound comes to your ears, it hits the eardrums, and it is received by the brain. The brain begins to understand that that is a motorbike, the other one is a vehicle, the other one is the sound of birds, the other one is the sound of people moving. Then number 2 thing that happens is you understand or you attend to the sound. That means the sound goes to your memory, to your working memory. And it's at that point that your memory begins to focus and say, this is this kind of sound, distinguish the different sounds that you are hearing. Then number 3, you remember or you perceive, you realize that the sounds that you are getting are connected to other sounds which you have ever heard. Perhaps you have ever heard the sound of a bird. So now you are connecting what you are hearing today with what you have ever heard. Then you evaluate. Now you tell yourself, this sound of the bird that I'm hearing, the bird is under some attack, or the bird is happy, it has found some tree with fruits, so it is making happy sounds. Or let us say it is the sound of a motorbike. You're saying the sound is of a motorbike moving under speed, or this motorbike is about to stop, or the motorbike is faulty, it has a problem. So your mind begins to evaluate, and then next you provide feedback. You may talk to someone who is close to you and say something like, that bird is very happy, or that bird is under attack, or the motorbike is coming to stop near here, or there is a motorbike coming, we need to board it to go to town. Now let us apply these stages to a classroom situation. Your lecturer is standing in front of you. The lecturer is speaking using words. So your ears will receive the words. You'll begin to connect them. Is it the sound is in English? Is it in Kiswahili? Is it in mother tongue? Which direction is the information? Is it communication skills? Is it introduction to computers? Is it HIV/AIDS? And all that kind of information. Then you begin to evaluate what is the reason for this kind of information. Perhaps the lecturer is giving you this information in the form of notes. Then you begin to evaluate where to put down those notes. Your feedback may be later because you are in a lecture room. But the feedback, if you are in a place where you're talking to another person, then you provide feedback. Have we moved, MacD?
We are still at slide
Have we
3.
moved?
From my side, I can see slide 3. Can you try from we start a presentation slideshow from the current slide? Yeah, we have now moved from 3 to slide number 6.
Can you see types of listening, isn't it?
We are at slide number 6, that's aids to effective listening. Okay, now we are at types of listening, slide number 5.
Are we on types of listening?
Yes.
Okay. So students, we also have different types of listening. We listen differently to different sounds and for different purposes. So when we are listening, we do not do the same thing for every situation. So the first type of listening is appreciative listening. And we do this when we want to enjoy, we want to relax, then we engage in appreciative listening. A situation where we can use this is when we are listening to music, for example. We are listening to appreciate. We are not under any obligation to remember what we are listening to. Or let us say we are listening to a comedy, or we are listening to a drama, some interesting aspect of drama. We listen to appreciate. We are not under obligation to remember anything. Sometimes we may not even have, we may not focus on the person who is making the music because we may not even see them. So we simply listen to appreciate. And we do that a lot. The interesting thing about appreciative listening is that because we are not under any pressure, we end up remembering so much of what we appreciated. For example, if you went out there, outside the university, and you saw someone making some music and people are gathering around this person, you will go there, and because you're not taking any notes, because no one is going to ask you any exam question, you are likely even to capture that situation in your memory. And you can be able to explain it bit by bit to someone else who was not there. Because what simply happened is that you are relaxed and you are appreciating. You are not under any pressure. The second kind of listening is comprehensive listening, where we listen for understanding. And I've given you examples. In a lecture room, you will listen for understanding. What do you want to understand? You want to understand the content that is being shared with you. If you're in a church service, you are listening to get the sermon or to get the instructions that you're being given by your religious leader. Or let us say in an example where you need instructions or directions to a place. You've gotten to a new town and you need to get to a certain place which you do not know. The kind of listening you'll do will be comprehensive listening. Here you listen with a lot more focus. You may even want to write down some information. For example, if they are telling you, go for about 100 meters, turn left, you will see a shop written on Limara turn right, you will see, let us say, an electric post, and proceed down, you'll pass the gate of a school. You need this kind of information. So you may end up even writing it down because you're listening for understanding. So comprehensive listening will demand more of your energy because you're listening for understanding. Then the third type of listening is empathetic or therapeutic listening. This is listening which allows you to listen to a person talk through their problems. Let me give you this example. Yesterday, your colleague went out in the evening, let us say at just 7 o'clock. And when they went out, they went to look for food, and they found that all the places where they could get food were closed. And so they stretched a bit further to look for food. And while coming back to the university, they lost their phone. It dropped along the way. And so this morning you meet your colleague. Your colleague requires empathetic listening from you. So they will be explaining their problem. They will be saying something like, yesterday I went out and imagine I lost my phone. So today I cannot communicate with anybody. I am feeling very bad. It was a new phone. It had all my notes. It had all my contacts. So when you are listening to this friend of yours, you are listening empathetically. You are listening with a view to feel with them. You want to feel what they are feeling. And so usually you will not take notes. I'm sure if your friend is talking to you, you will not be taking notes. You will simply be looking at them and making sounds of sympathy. You'll be saying, oh, I'm very sorry. Oh, that was very bad. Imagine that is terrible, things like that. So what will you do now that you have no phone? So you are listening with empathy. You're feeling with your colleague. And that is part of therapeutic listening. Then we have critical listening. This is listening that allows you to make judgment about what is being said. In critical listening, you will listen keenly. Let me give you an example. A politician has come to your area and he tells you, now when you elect me, I will ensure that all university students in this area get about 30,000 to support their fees. When you are listening, all of you could be listening. There are those who will believe this politician, and there are those who will think critically. Is it possible for one politician to be able to support all university students with 30,000 Kenya shillings? So what you're doing is you're trying to make judgment. Do I believe or do I not believe? Is it doable or it is not doable? What you're doing, you're making judgment. Now, you cannot listen critically to your friend who lost a phone, because if you do that, then you will not be able to give them the listening ear they require. You cannot listen critically to a lecture. You cannot listen critically to a church service. It cannot happen. You cannot make judgment about what the preacher is sharing with you or what your lecturer is sharing with you. So critical listening has its place where we make judgment. Let us say you have gone to the supermarket and you find there a salesperson selling a toothpaste, a new kind of toothpaste. And he tells you that when you use this toothpaste, your teeth will be as white as milk. Now, when you look at the packet, you see a lady. Usually they will use ladies. You see a beautiful lady with sparkling white teeth. On the teeth, they will put there a star to show that the teeth are sparkling. But then you'll be asking yourself, is it possible for my teeth to be as white as this? If you agree with what you have heard, then you will buy. Another person will say, how do I know whether this lady's teeth were already white before she took the picture and became a brand ambassador for the toothpaste? You may even wonder, my teeth are misarranged in my mouth. Will my teeth become as well arranged as those of the girl on the packet. Of course, the people who are selling to you the toothpaste will try to convince you, but you have to make judgment. You have to listen critically. It's only those who listen critically who end up making the right kind of decision. Then we have discriminative listening. This is listening that is aimed to distinguish between auditory and visual stimuli. That means you're trying to distinguish the kind of sounds that you are hearing. Let me give you an example. You are in a room and some sound is made outside. You will require to think and to listen discriminatively to be able to establish, is the sound you are hearing the sound of peace, or you need to take off and run and save yourself. We listen discriminatively every other time in life. A mother will listen discriminatively for the kind of crying that the child is making. Is the child crying for hunger? A mother will be able to tell you, because the crying is different from if the child is under attack or the child is uncomfortable, they have wet their clothes, the crying will be different. So discriminative listening is something that happens many times. And even you as a student, there are opportunities for you to be able to discriminate the sounds that are coming to your ear. Be able to say, this sound means this, and this sound means the other. If you're talking to a colleague, and perhaps the way in which they are putting their words, the way in which their voice is raised, you can be able to tell whether they are actually talking with a good heart or they have issues with you. Now, I want to ask this. MacD, can you see aids to effective listening?
We are at slide aids to, yeah, now we are there. We are now there. Aids to effective listening.
MacD, can you aids to effective listening?
Yes, I think the best way, when you click it appears, but when you scroll it is stuck. We are now there.
You are now there?
Yes.
So students, I know that you have been listening since you were born. I said you even listened in your mother's womb. But we are saying we need to listen effectively, especially for academic purposes, and later on for professional purposes. So how do we listen effectively? There are certain things that you can do to enhance your effective listening. Number one, you need to prepare by reading on the topic. Let us say the lecturer has said that our next topic is study skills. To enhance what you will hear in the next topic, what you need to do is to read around that topic. Look for information regarding the topic so that when the lecturer is sharing the lecture verbally, you will be able to connect what you are hearing verbally with what you have read before. So it is important that when you get into a lecture situation, and that is why your lecturer will give you a course outline. That is why your lecturer will ask you to read in advance. They will tell you, go to the library, they will direct you to a book, and they will ask you to read in advance. So that when you come, it is easier for you to connect what you are hearing with what you read. And it therefore forms a knowledge base that can enable you grasp content. So it is important that if you want to improve on your listening, read on the topic, read in advance on the topic. You can also be able, when you're reading in advance, to establish those things that are not clear to you, and then they can become questions which you can ask. Sometimes when we come to the lecture, we say, Do you have any question? And everybody is looking around. They have no question. You can be able to get questions when you read in advance. So that now you're saying, this is something I read, I did not understand. But because the lecturer is here, can I get clarification for the issue? And that is how questions come up. And that's how you improve on your listening. Number two, to be able to listen effectively, take brief notes. While brief notes are for future reference, they are also important. You realize that when you're taking notes, you will be focused. There's no way you can take notes when you're doing other things. So taking notes trains you to be focused on what is being spoken in the lecture. Number two, when you take notes, it helps you to connect what you are hearing and what you are writing down. So it enhances your understanding of the lecture content. So it is important that you write down. And also, when you're taking notes, it helps you to avoid detractors. There could be someone around you who wants to talk to you, but when they see that you're writing notes, they will stop what they are doing and perhaps also begin to write notes. You will also move your attention from other things that are happening around you and focus on the taking notes. So taking notes is a very important activity. It consolidates understanding of the topic. So anytime you come to a lecture situation, carry with you a book, a pen. Ensure that you have some kind of material that will help you be able to grasp what will be shared in that lecture. So do not just come to the lecture to look around. The human mind is very interesting. When you just come to the lecture room and you begin to look around, you are likely to sleep, you are likely to begin thinking about other things, and therefore your focus will not be on what is being spoken. So ensure that you come prepared to listen. And to listen, you take brief notes. Those brief notes can then be improved later on when you are reading textbooks, when you are discussing, when you have gone to the e-learning platform, you realize that there is some notes you can add to what you have written down briefly. What you have written in short is your understanding. And then you can add what other people have written, and that will consolidate your understanding of the material. Sit where you can hear clearly. Some students have a habit of always sitting at the farthest corner of a room because that is what they have been doing always in their academic life. But I want to encourage you that if you have to listen effectively, then sit where you can hear clearly. Sit where you can do number 4, where you can observe non-verbal cues of the speaker. People speak using words. They also speak using their body parts, using their facial expressions, using their gestures, using their poses, using the way they move around on the stage. Observe non-verbal cues. They assist you in also understanding the kind of information that is being shared. So do not sit very far away. When you sit near, you can be able to focus on the speaker. Focusing on the speaker allows you also to have an imprint in your mind of the kind of information that was shared. So make sure that you're sitting where you can hear and where you can see the speaker of the day. Number 5, we're saying avoid all detractors. Detractors can be in the form of a phone call. It can be in the form of a friend who is who is not keen about the course, so that they are busy trying to show you their WhatsApp message. They're trying to show you a funny meme. They're trying to tell you about their experiences. Those are detractors. It can be a phone call that will come to you and simply change the way you perceive the information you are hearing. So avoid all kind of detractors. When you're listening, put away all other things and focus on the speaker. Also, to aid you to be an effective listener, you need to be an active listener. A listener is not just passive. A hearer can be passive, but a listener needs to be active. And what are you doing when you are active? You need to understand what the speaker is saying. You need to listen attentively to the speaker. You need to respond. So you are listening because you may want to respond. You need to reflect or to think about what is being said. And you need also to retain the information for later use. So what that means is that as a listener, ensure that you are active. Let your mind be active. Actually, for listening to happen, you must have your mind very clear. A drunkard cannot listen. They can only hear. A sick person cannot listen. They can only hear. A stressed person cannot listen. They can only hear. So ensure that you are an active listener by watching around you. What is it that could cause you not to be active? If it is sickness, then deal with it. You have the 20% we have talked about, where you can be allowed to go to the health unit, be attended to, rest, and come back when your mind is okay. When your mind is okay, then you'll be able to listen. If it is a stressful situation, seek for guidance and counseling. In Kibabi University, we have counselors. Seek for their help. Do not just go to class and imagine that you're going to listen. You will not, you'll be hearing. Your focus will be on the problem you have. Let us say yesterday they called you and told you that your cow, which you had put aside in order to be able to sell and get fees for your next semester, has died. It fell in a hole in the compound, broke its legs, and therefore the people who are there decided to kill it. And so they have sent you the message and told you that we have killed your cow. We are even sharing the meat. So you are there and feeling very bad. You don't know what will happen to you in future. Talk to somebody, because you cannot be in the lecture room with all this kind of information on your mind. What will happen is that you'll be hearing and you will not be listening. And I've already told you that when you are hearing, the information just hits your eardrums, but the mind does not try to make meaning out of it. And that is why information is lost, because you're not making meaning out of your hearing. I want to move on and look at 6 key active listening skills. Active listening. MacD, can you see my figure on active listening? MacD, can you see my figure on active listening?
No, we have aids to effective listening. Click on. Are we supposed to be on which? We are supposed to be on which slide?
Active listening, a figure with 6 key active listening skills.
What I'm seeing slide 6. Click on slide 7, please. Yeah. I think when you click, it's okay. When you click, it moves. It's now okay.
Okay. So active listening skills. Number 1, you need to pay attention. To be an active listener, you need to pay attention. That means you need to decide that this is what I want to do. Remember when we were defining Listening, we said it is a purposeful decision you make to listen. So decide that I'm going to pay attention. Number 2, withhold judgment. Sometimes when you're listening, there could be things that you do not like. Perhaps you're not even hearing what the lecturer is saying. Perhaps you cannot be able to see what the lecturer is doing. Perhaps the people around you are making noise. A feeling that you should voice your feelings. You are making judgment. And sometimes you may know the speaker, and the speaker is someone perhaps who did something which you found not very good, and so you want to make judgment. When you do that, you will miss out on the information that they have. So if there is any judgment, withhold it. Do not say the speaker is very short, the speaker is female, the speaker is not able to explain themselves, the speaker has mother tongue influence, the speaker comes from this or that county. No, any such judgment will affect your listening. Number 3, you need to reflect. When we talk about reflecting, we're talking about thinking about what we are hearing. We think about what we are hearing. What you are hearing is supposed to inform your future actions or inform your future understandings of that course or that particular area. So think, when you are in that class, do not switch off your mind. Think about what you are hearing. Is it something you have ever had? Is it something that you can make use of? Is it something that adds value to you? Reflect upon what you are hearing. Number 4, clarify. You can write down their questions. Do you need to be explained to further? Do you need further explanation of the information that was being shared? Write it down, voice it, share it out. In that way, the information becomes clearer. There's some things you may hear in a lecture room that you only hear partially and some of the information is lost. Ask for clarification, either from a colleague or even from your lecturer. That is one of the ways in which you show that you are actually active. Because a person who is inactive will not even note that they have missed some information. They will simply be there. The information is passing. They cannot connect the information, but they do not care. Those are inactive listeners. But an active listener will strive to put down what they're hearing, and what they do not get, they will seek to get the information so that they can add it up. Then number 5 is summarize. We're saying always make brief notes. To be an active listener, make brief notes. Do not just come and tell yourself that your mind will be able to retain all the information you are listening to. Writing down helps you to summarize the information. It helps you to have a reference. It also helps you in the event that someone a clarification, you can be able to share with them. And later on, when you get a textbook, you're reading alongside the same topic. What you wrote down is simplified, summarized information. What is in the textbook will be, let us say, several pages or a whole chapter of information. So beginning from the summarized, then you can go on to read the textbook, and you can therefore be able to put the information together to form a knowledge base. Always share, that is number 6. Share the kind of information you have received. You can share in the form of questions. You can share in the group, in the groups when you form your groups for group discussion. Share information. One thing about listening is that it affects our understanding, and therefore we are able to share information. When you see someone who is unable to share information, it is because they did not understand what they were hearing. So being able to share means that you have a level of understanding. understanding of information. Now, I want us to move on to look at barriers, effective listening, barriers to effective listening. Any process we know of will have barriers or challenges. I hope, Mark D, you can see the barriers to effective listening.
Yes,
Mark
we
D,
can.
Can you hear them?
See it,
Can
we
you
can see it.
Barriers?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay.
Now, okay.
Okay. So when we were looking at fundamentals to communication, we said communication is usually faced with barriers. And we said a barrier is anything that interferes with the process. So similarly, listening also has barriers, things that will affect how you listen. Because listening is a focused, purposeful activity. Number one barrier can be hearing problems. If you have issues with your ears, perhaps you are sick, perhaps you are unwell in one or two of your ears, then, or you are suffering from some disease that affects your hearing, then that can be a barrier. It may be painful, perhaps the ears are painful, the ears are blocked, the ears are making some sounds. You will not be able to focus on what you're listening. So this means that you need to sort it out. You need to find a remedy for your hearing problems. The second barrier that you're likely to face is a chain of thoughts. Sometimes when people are listening to a person, the way I know some of you are listening to me, but you also have a number of thoughts that are passing in your mind. You're thinking about your lunch, you're thinking about your next lesson, you're thinking about exams, you're thinking about your family at home. There are many thoughts that can be passing through a human mind at any one time. Now, this chain of thoughts can be a barrier because you need to focus to be able to get this lecture I am taking you through. You need to focus on it. You need to have all your mind focused on listening skills. But if there are many other thoughts that are passing in your mind, there's likelihood that some of the information may escape, or that some of the information may be misrepresented in your mind. So chain of thoughts can be an aspect of a barrier. Then you can also have a heavy message. When we're talking about a heavy message, we are thinking about a message which is composed of, let us say, difficult vocabulary, technical words, a message that you are not able to grasp clearly. That is a heavy message. It can also become a barrier because as you're trying to listen, you're also realizing that you do not understand, you cannot comprehend what is being shared. Then it cuts, it disconnects you from the message, and you're not able therefore to understand and act or provide feedback on the message you are receiving. Accented talk. There are people with accents. Many people have accents emerging from their mother tongue. Others have accents which they have acquired. Like I'm told when people go abroad, like to the United States of America, they come back with accents. Some of them are affected by the places where they have lived or affected even by their teachers. They acquire the accent of the teacher. Now, when you're listening to this strange accent, there is a possibility that you may not get all the information you require. While you're still trying to get on the information you have received, then the speaker has moved to the next level. Sometimes we have what we call the listener's prejudice. That means as a listener, You have your thoughts about the speaker. You have ideas about even the topic. So you have already made up your mind, either not to listen, or either that you will not benefit, or either that this person is against you or against your community, something like that. So the listener's prejudice will also act as a barrier. It will stop you from understanding what is being shared. So you are the listener. If you have prejudice, you will not be able to understand. Then we have what we call misunderstanding the listener's role. This one is very interesting. A listener is actually supposed to focus on what they are hearing and then respond. But I'm sure you have come across people who, when you're speaking to them, they even finish the sentence for you. You begin a sentence, they finish it for you. Or when you're still sharing the information you're sharing, they do not allow you to reach to the end, they interject, they give their idea. Or when you're still sharing the information, they begin to critique it, they shut their mind. Such are people who do not understand their role as listeners. They are supposed to focus, pay attention on the speaker, and then come up with information they may want to share as feedback. So it is important to understand your role as a listener. Then we have cultural gap. We come from communities with cultures. And it is not just Africans who have cultures. Every community has its culture. Even the white people in the West, they have cultures. So our different cultures have different beliefs and practices. Some of those beliefs and practices can actually affect the way we listen. Some people may say, and this is an example I gave you when we were looking at barriers during our topic 1, fundamentals of communication. I said, there are some people, if you as a young person went to share with them, let us say they are the age mate of your father or your grandfather. If you went to share with them, they will quickly dismiss you and say, what can this child tell us? We saw you being born the other day. Children are not supposed to speak in the presence of their elders. What has happened is that they have created a barrier to their listening. They have forgotten that you could have very vital information that is likely to help them, likely to move the community, that is likely to improve their lives. They are only seeing you as a young child, and therefore that prevents them from getting the information. There are even other communities where women are perceived as children. Women are put together in the class of children so that a woman cannot say anything. What can a child tell us? That is what they will say. So because of those cultural beliefs and practices, sometimes you realize that it is not possible for the people to listen. They will have created a barrier. And before I leave that area, I want to say this. There are barriers that are created because of our different age groups. The people in the age group of your parents have different understandings of the idea of dressing and appearance that is different from your understanding of dressing and appearance. For example, as a young person, let us say you're going to give a presentation and you're dressed in a lot of bling bling. You have rings on your fingers, you have a chain in your neck, you have an earring or a stud on one of your ears. When you appear before people who are the age mates of your father, they are likely to feel that there is nothing good you can tell them. Or let us say it is a lady. You have decided that you're going to wear your mini skirt and this blouse that leaves out a lot of your skin on the chest or on your chest. There is likelihood that the people will be listening will be feeling that you are not worthy. You have not respected traditions. You're supposed to dress in a presentable manner before elders. So that kind of appearance, the way you appear, will actually be a barrier to their effective listening. Preoccupations are just like chains of thoughts where your mind is preoccupied, your mind is focused on something else apart from what you're listening. And I've said, because of that, the conflict between what you are hearing and the other thoughts that are in your mind is likely to cause you to miss out information. The ego can also be part of cultural gap. We have different egos for men and women. There's a possibility that because of the male ego, they may not want to hear issues or ideas that are being championed by a female. The female may also feel that the male person or the male presenter is not presenting information that they can associate with. So these are barriers. And why do we look at barriers? We look at barriers with the intention of understanding them, and then if we come across them in our environment, let us say you are preparing to make a presentation, it's important that you think about what are the likely barriers, and then you make efforts to mitigate them. For example, if you have a TED talk and you are the one giving the presentation, it's important for you even to give a slight explanation before you continue, so that your listeners do not feel left out as they struggle with your accent. If, let us say, your message, you realize that your message is heavy, it has technical terms, very heavy words, then you may want to give an explanation of the words so that your audience can be able to follow you in the process. If you have hearing problems, you do not struggle to hear, just go for medical attention, because you can be assisted. You can even be given a hearing device if you are actually in a position where you cannot hear anything. Be given a hearing device. If it is a culture, it's an issue that you're going to share with, let us say, the community. Take note that they are cultural people. They have their cultures. They may not speak about them. They may not be very open, but they have their cultures. So be keen about their cultures, and then you'll be able to share information. You'll be able to share information in a manner that will help your audience. Note-taking is closely associated with listening. And we take notes usually in a lecture room. When we are studying online, we may not take notes, we will make notes. So note making is different from note taking. We take notes when we are reading, but we make notes when we are reading, but we take notes when we are listening. So anytime you are in a lecture room or you are having to listen to let us say, an external speaker, what you're doing as you're putting down your brief notes, you are taking notes. Now, scholars have come up with a number of methods that can be used to assist you to take your notes. The first method is the outline method. This is a method that uses headings and bullets to organize information. It also uses subtopics. Then underneath the subtopics, you put supporting facts. I've given you an example there. This example has number 1, advantages of the outline method. And below that, you can see the points that I've written down under advantages of the outline method. Then point number 2 is easy to generate study questions. And then, the number 2 should be disadvantages. And I have given you the disadvantages of the outline method. So when you're taking your notes under outline method, you are using headings and subheadings and bullet points, so that you're not writing complete sentences. You're writing important points. And I'll tell you that the outline method is useful because it will help you be able to listen and take notes at the same time. I'm sure you have been to several lectures, and you can agree with me that the lecturers usually speak like a radio. They speak continuously. They do not stop to say, now let us write this. They will speak continuously. So it is up to you to be able to tell that this is the subheading. Of course, sometimes the lecturer will say, write this heading, and then they will say, I'll give you 5 points under this heading. So it is you to be very keen to listen and see point number 1. What are the things that the lecturer is mentioning under point number 1? What is the point number 2? What is the lecturer mentioning under point number 2? So that the notes under outline method will be sketchy. You will then be able to make addition of these notes, let us say from reading or from consulting. You'll be able to add additional information. This is a great way of preparing for exams because you can be able to see your notes very easily and very quickly. The outline method. That is the first method I want us to look at. I have also shown you an example of how this is done. This is someone writing notes on extrasensory perception. So point number 1 they have written is definition. They're saying the definition of extrasensory perception is to perceiving without use of sense organs. And then they went down, they have 3 kinds, then the current status. So this is an example of how we can use the outline method. You can see the subtopics, and then you can see the points underneath the subtopics. And I've said this is a good way of you even preparing for your exams because you can see the topic and you can see the brief points under it. And then you can be able to quickly revise. If there is anything that is not clear, then you can go to the detailed notes, which you should have in a textbook elsewhere. The second method is called the Cornell Method. The Cornell Method. And we're saying that this is a technique that works in all kinds of classes. It involves you dividing your page into 3 sections. The first section, you're calling it cues. That is where you write the hints, the ideas, the prompts, things that come to you when you are listening to the lecture. So you write them under cues. And then the middle part, the bigger middle part, is where you write your notes, beginning with the date and the title of the lecture. That is where you write all the information. The first one, which is called cues, you can even write there unfamiliar words. You can write there new words that you are encountering. You write them under cues. Any question that you think you may have, you write it under cues. And then at the bottom of your page, you have what we call the summary. Here you summarize the information you have received for the day. So this Cornell method helps you to be able to see your notes. It helps you to be able to see your summary. It also helps you to see the new words you may have encountered, the kind of questions you may have had, things that you came across in this in the lecture. Let me show you an example of the Cornell method. An example, the Cornell method. So we have the class, the date, and you can see the Q column. The Q column has keywords. You write there keywords for the lesson of that day, or any key question that you may have or which the lecturer asked, because the lecturer may ask a question which may guide you even as you go to the discussion with your other group members. Or it can be a question that may another day be turned into an exam question. So it is a key question you can write down and discuss with your group members. Then we have the note-taking column. Here you record your key ideas important dates, information, places, pictures, diagrams, formulas, and other repeated information. Lecturers usually repeat emphasis. So once you realize that this is information that is being repeated, then note it down, because it means that it is important. The lecturer has realized its importance and they are repeating it. Then below there, we have where you summarize your notes in your own words. What did you understand about the topic of today? So you write it down. So that is the Cornell method. The next method, the sentence method that you use most. And here you only require to listen and write down. Every point can be on a separate page, or you can write continuously like a paragraph. It's important for you to note that while you are writing those sentences, the lecturer is not quiet. They are still continuing with the explanation. So to help yourself, do not write very long, complete sentences. You write brief notes, information which you can then be able to expand later on. And you can be able to separate the points using bullets or even numbers. You can also come up with abbreviations, short forms, or what we call shorthand. For example, the word between, you can write BTW, that is between, and you can write the affixed. For the word for, you can just write the number 4. 2, you can just write 2. You're making shorthand ways of capturing your information, because as I said, your lecturer is not stopping to allow you to write, but you must write. So you write in a brief way, using shorthand. You use bullets, you use numbers to separate the kind of information you're trying to capture. I want to share with you an example. It may not be a very good example, but it is an example anyways. As the notes, someone was trying to write body language and oral presentations. So their points were written according to movement, facial expressions, gestures, posture, and then there are certain things under each one of them which the person has been able to capture. It may not be a very good example, but this is something that you can be able to do as you write your notes. Remember, every time that your lecturer is not silent, they will continue talking even as you are writing. So to be able to do both the writing and the listening, then you have to develop a short form or a shorthand abbreviations which can help you be able to bring out the information. Then the last method is mind mapping method. Mind mapping method. You're told that your mind resembles the mind map resembles the way your brain works. So instead of starting at the top of the page, like in sentence, to write a sentence method where you begin at the top of the page to write the information, in mind mapping, you begin from the center. I will show you an example. You begin from the center. So you write there the topic. For example, the topic could be listening skills. Then you have things emerging from it, branching out from the center. This could be things like note-taking. It could be things like barriers to communication, to listening. It could be things like difference between listening and hearing. It could be a branch like types of hearing and such, so that when you look at it, it becomes a picture. When you look at it, it is a summarized version of your notes. But then later on, you can be able to beef up those notes from, but already you have captured in a summarized way the kind of information that is emerging. Let me show you how the mind mapping method can appear. So you can see an example of notes that we're using the mind map. These are notes on the human body. You can see the student has respiratory system, muscular system, digestive system, nervous system, urinary system, reproductive system, endocrine system, cardiovascular system, skeletal system, and the lymphatic system. So now the student has a summary of the human body. Then they can be able now to go to each one of those aspects and develop further branches. For example, under the digestive system, they can write there the intestines and the last part of the digestive system. Under the lymphatic system, they can write there the limbs, the upper limbs, and the lower limbs, and all that kind of thing. The muscular system, they can have branches from there. So when you look at this map, you can see the information at a go. The beauty about mind maps is because they are pictorial, they are very memorable. So you can be able to remember what you drew when it comes to, let us say, I remember what the notes you have to remember the picture and how it appeared. So to beef up the notes on the mind map, then you may want to read further, and then perhaps use the sentence method to be able to fill up the gaps that are missing on the mind map. So I want to say this, that these methods, in as far as they are very good in helping us, sometimes they work together. So you can have the mind map working with the sentence. You can have the Cornell working with the first method that I gave you. So you realize that they all can work at the same time, and they can all be in helping you capture information. To summarize that area of note-taking, we have 5 R's, which scholars have established about note-taking. The 5 R's of note-taking. The first one is record, saying during the lecture, write all meaningful information legibly. Why should you write legibly? Because when you come back to looking at your notes, you must be able to understand them by your. So write legibly, of writing quickly, but legibly and in a clear manner that can. Number 2, reduce. After the lecture, write a summary of the ideas and facts. Use words as cues. I want to add there and say, summarize the ideas using your own words. What did you about listening as a process? What did you understand about listening skills? So summarize that information using your own words. Number 3, recite. Recite all the information in your own words without looking at your notes or the text. When you are reciting, you are repeating the information without looking at your own notes. Number 4, reflect. Think about your own opinions and ideas. Raise questions and record original ideas. It's important that you reflect, that you engage in thinking about the information you have seen. Reflecting is very key at this level of your learning, because you realize when you begin to sit for exams that at this level, we do not just give you comprehension, we do not just give you questions that will seek your understanding. We will want to ask you questions where you apply the knowledge. We will want to ask you questions where you can be able to tear apart information and put it back together. Get your original idea. So you must think. So think about what you have taken down in the form of your notes. Do not just take down the notes and keep them for cramming. Here at this level of learning, we want you to understand the information and even repeat it, but also apply it and also make use of it in creating your own original ideas. Then lastly, we're saying review. Before reading new material, take 10 minutes to review your older notes. Skim over the main ideas and details. So it is important that when you're doing your note taking, you are doing and up to the level of where you can be able to summarize. So that next time, if you have very little time, you can just read through the summaries of every lecture, and you'll be able to come up with information. So thank you so much for being able to attend this lesson. And as usual, I want to say this is our beautiful Kibabi University, our home for the next 4 years. Enjoy the atmosphere. Listen to the birds. We have a lot of trees. Listen to the birds. Listen to each other. Listen to your colleagues. Listen to your lecturers. Listen also to your parents as they make calls. But this is our beautiful Kibabi University. So as I end, I want to say finally, the contents of this lecture are on the e-learning platform. You are all enrolled there. McDonald made the effort to enroll all of you. What is left is for you to visit the e-learning platform. If you do not do that, it means that you have absconded the lesson. I see people coming into the lecture with their registration numbers, but also this platform is, the e-learning platform is able to check your attendance of the lecture. So I have opened for you the notes for topic 1, 2, 3. So when you go there, you'll find that you have your topic 1, 2, 3 notes available. I'll soon be putting there tasks for you to undertake. But meanwhile, make sure that you go to that platform. If there is a discussion or a chat, read it and respond to it. Let others also respond to it. And in that way, we will be consolidating our knowledge. With that, I want to say that may you have a good day. Have a good day. And let's meet in our next lesson. Let's meet in our next lesson. But have